Hello everyone, this is Aiden Studios, and today I have made just a quick video, but I have made a tier list for the current meta of Clash Royale in February 2023. Now, I'm gonna do this video a little bit different. I'm gonna format it. I've already done the list, but I'm gonna explain why I've put these cards in their tiers, and go through a couple different cards of each tier. So rather than sitting here and boringly going through each one, I'm now going to just simply... I'm just going to simply go through the tiers and some of the cards. Right, starting off with S, these cards are really broken, and you could basically chuck them in a deck and they'd probably work really well with what you have. For example, Mortar and Cannon are probably the best buildings in the game right now. So Mortar always gets that annoying connection, like 200, 300 damage, which could always change the tide of the game. I'd say Mighty Miner, Golden Knight are probably the two best champions in the whole game too, as Mighty Miner heroics really well on defense for the free card cycle and his drill ability. Golden Knight is just ridiculous with the tornado on offense, with those crazy connections, and E-Giant and all that. Goblins are probably better than Skeletons right now. Ice Spirit's probably the best spirit. Archers, the buff made them ridiculously fast in attack speed. Log and Fireball are probably the best spells to use in a deck. Skeleton King, I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's pretty close to being one of the best. I wouldn't personally use it, but it depends on your deck, such as if you're using Graveyard, you probably want to use a Skeleton King more than the Mighty Miner or the Golden Knight. Now, if we go to the A tier, these aren't cards that exactly are broken, but they're really strong and could work in your deck. For example, Valkyrie is a really strong support card on mini tank on defense. Dark Goblin makes a really good sniper across the river and on defense, such as maybe in a log bait deck, for example. Wall Breakers pair with the Miner really well for being 2 Elixir, the cheapest win condition in the game, get tons of damage if you ignore them. Graveyard is probably one of the best win conditions in the whole game, but I'm not putting it in S because the Archers are so strong right now and they counter Graveyard really well. The Monk, I've not put the Archer Queen or the Monk in S. I think the Monk is on its way back and could easily be the next champion within maybe the next set of balances. Archer Queen, I don't think, is because of the Monk on the rise, and also the first attack nerf really affected the Archer Queen. The Barbarian Barrel is a really strong small spell. The Skeletons aren't as good as the Goblins. Fire Spirit, I do like it, but I just prefer the Ice Spirit because of the stun. Bats pair well with Miner and all the usual, stuff. E-Spirit, again, not a bad one, but I think it's a bit specific to your deck. Tornado, not quite S, but it is a really ridiculous card. Tombstone is not a bad building, depending on your deck, like in a graveyard deck, for example, with the Skelly King, charge up the bar. Royal Giant is a ridiculous win condition, it can get tons of damage. Goblin Gang pairs well with Log Bait, Miner, even that one Royal Hogs mirror deck. I've seen that a couple times and has the gang in it. Snowball could easily be on its way of being a contender for the best small spell because of its ridiculous knockback. Oh yeah, the log with its knockback nerf, yeah, it's still S. And same with the Fireball. The nerfs didn't really affect them too much. Miner is really close to being S tier, due to getting tons and tons of damage and being very versatile on your decks. Tesla is a pretty strong building, not as strong as Cannon, but I'd say if you're using something like Expo or maybe a cycle deck, you could use Tesla instead of Cannon, it's up to you. Also, Zappies are really strong on defense, for example in Recruits, or maybe Royal Giant decks sometimes have them. They can counter air, they can counter tanks really good. Alright, B tier. These are cards they're a bit above average in a way. They are quite versatile. They're not as strong as the ones above, but I feel like they should still get recognition for being solid defensive cards. Goblin Cage and Bomb Tower are pretty solid defensive buildings. I like with the Goblin Cage, you can use it to tank on defense, and then a Brawler pops out and does quite a bit. I mean, over 400 damage at max level isn't really a joke. Like, that is quite a bit of damage. Flying Machine can be really annoying sometimes. Royal Hogs used to be like S, like a few months ago, but the occasional nerfs and counters appearing in the meta have kind of made them a bit lower. Giant Skeleton, again, used to be S or A, but again, in Hog decks with many contenders for being the support, such as the Monk, for example, I'm seeing Monk, Hog, Earthquake. The Giant Skeleton isn't used as much with the Archer Queen. Hunter, Fisherman, really good in Raw Giant, don't really see them much elsewhere. Bomber, Spear Goblins, really good support. Bomb is used with E-Giant, which is also here. E-Giant's making its way back up. Even with the reflection damage nerf, the Crown Towers, it's still making a pretty huge comeback. Knight, rather than being C tier, is coming back to B tier. The health buff helped him out a bit. I don't think he needed it, but it's definitely helped his performance. The Hog is a standard win condition. Balloon, I think, is solid. Earthquake as well. Firecracker's first hit buff made it much better. Cannon Cart, the Guards, Dark Prince, Sparky, Executioner, they're all pretty decent. Lava Hound, rather than being A, I put down to B because I feel like there's more air counters coming in the meta. Baby Dragon, I mean, lots of decks, the Phoenix has kind of replaced it. And yeah, the Phoenix with a ton of nerfs is also still an A tier. Electro Dragon's making its way back up in beatdown decks, such as Golem. I'm seeing it in Golem decks, the E-Drag, and like Golem Pump. Ramrider's pretty solid, Inferno Dragon's solid. Earthquake, yep, Earthquake and Hogquake. I think it's still good, even with the Crown Tower damage nerfs it's got. God, I remember when with the Miro, it would do like 500 damage per for like 2 Earthquakes. It's ridiculous. Yep, Expo. The Archer's buff definitely helped it out, and also I feel like it eventually, soon with other win conditions and that being nerfed, we could see a higher use in Expo. Now for C tier, these are they can either be really niche in their usage, or they're just not the best right now. For example, Zap. I mean, only in like a Sparky deck or something would you use a Zap to like kill swarms or stun something. Pump, I mean, again, it's very specific. 3 Musketeers, Golem maybe, and it does. And spells don't counter it too well, except for Earthquake. But even then, when they commit, you can like push the opposite lane and get tons of damage or take the tower. Giant, it's all right, but only used in things like Double Prince, maybe Sparky. But it's just not used a lot. Inferno Tower is okay, but it's just not the meta that it should be used in because of lightning and all the stun cards being quite popular. Barbarians, Elite Barbarians. Elite Barbs you only see in Bridge Spam. I mean, Barbarians you only see in Lava Hound decks, but even then, I wouldn't probably use them. You can choose to not use them. In fact, I might just move these down to D tier, to be honest with you. Ice Wizard in Splash Yard, or maybe Ice Bow, but Ice Bow's pretty bad right now. Splash Yard, I don't even think you have to use the Ice Wiz, I'm not too sure about that, but yep, Recruits, I mean, they work in the Recruits deck, but they're not versatile. You have to build a deck around them. And the split lane pressure. Battle Ram, and using Bridge Spam. Bridge Spam did finish #1 recently with what's that guy, Tourist or something, using P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam. Prince, occasionally Prince is log bait, but even that's not really a good deck right now. Or maybe Giant Double Prince or Goblin Giant decks maybe. Lumberjack, Lumberloon, maybe Golem. It's not the best. I wouldn't really recommend. Mega Knight, mid ladder bums use it. It's pretty. I people overestimate it. That's the problem. Golem's okay, but it's just a big wall of health, realistically. Um, I think Rage is okay. I think the damage was a buff, because in Sparky, for example, it can clean up swarms as well as Rage, the whole push, make it faster. Mirror, maybe Mirror E-Giant, maybe. You can pull off some ridiculous things sometimes. Ice Golem, there's not really much reason to use it over like maybe something like a Night Valkyrie, Skelly King, whatsoever. Heal Spirit, probably the worst of the spirits. In some decks, maybe like a bridge spam deck, you could heal up troops and or maybe a Giant Sparky deck, Goblin Giant Sparky, that kind of thing. Golem Barrel Princess, not very versatile, only used in log bait, you can't really use them anywhere else. Princess does make an annoying pressure unit though, and the Goblin Barrel can get damaged, but the first attack nerf kind of really affected it. And I feel like log bait in general has been on a steady decline recently. Mega Minion, no reason to really use it over the Phoenix. It basically does everything except better for one more elixir, and can even like respawn back in the map. I think that's basically it. D tier, these are cards that are not that, they're pretty bad. As I said, I've recently moved the Barbarians, because again I only see them in Hound. Rascals only in log bait, or even then, they're not that good. Goblin Giant, only with Sparky, sometimes Double Prince. It's not that good. It's really squishy with its health. Like, I think it should get maybe a health buff, or I've seen people talk about a third Spear Goblin in the backpack. I think that could work. Minion Horde, rather than being F, I think I would put it in D. I think Minion Horde, when he don't have a counter, it's the MVP of the whole match. Like, it can be the best card in the match, like, such as maybe with a minor Minion Horde, or if you can have something to tank for your Minion Horde and they have no counter, then you basically win the game. Night Witch isn't too good. Golem, mainly. But other than that, there's just no point. Clone, pretty bad, because Poison is really good right now, as well as Tornado, and a ton of counters. Freeze, very niche card. Sometimes maybe Graveyard, Lumberloon Freeze. Even then, if you're smart and play well, you can separate all of your troops and not have the freeze affect you. Barbarian Hut and Spear and the Goblin Hut, they're probably out of I like to call it the trio of shitty spawners. I'd probably say these two are the better ones. But even then, just stick to Tombstone's probably the best spawner in the whole game to use. Rocket, the damage nerf to Crown Towers really affected it, like in log bait. I mean, before then you'd only see it in log bait, so there's not really much point in using a rocket in bait. I've seen Riley, best log bait player, use Mirror Fireball. That's why I put them. One of the reasons I put Mirror up in C, and he's been doing really well with that deck. Wizard Witch, I mean, they're the mid ladder kind of cards. I'd say out of the 5 elixir ranged troops, I think you want to use the Bowler or Executioner more rather than these. They just die too easily. Free Musk, I mean, it only work in one deck, and that's the Free Musketeers. Bridge spam deck. Skeleton Barrel, not too good. Alright. Last here, we'll talk about these three. This is probably the worst building in the whole game. Like, Furnace is really bad. The amount of health. It's less than 1,000, it dies to an earthquake instantly. It dies to 2 hog hits or something like that. It's just really bad. Battle Healer, only an Elixir Golem. Even then, Elixir Golem is really bad. Because there's tons and tons of counters to it. And most of the time, if you build up a really good push, you would also probably get, I don't know, maybe a tornado, an executioner tornado destroys the whole push. Built a building, a bomb tower poison can destroy a Alexa Golem push with something else. And speaking of which, the Alexa Golem, it's really bad, because it just dies and gives you Alexa. I think the rework where it gives you the Alexa quicker kind of killed it, because like, rather at the end get 4 Alexa for a counter push, it gives your opponent Alexa as it goes, which means it can put more troops on defense and then they go on the offense. So you get the Alexa quicker, which therefore means you're going to get counter pushed on quicker and not be able to defend. Alright, well that's my tier list. If you disagree with some of the picks, please comment down below and I'll probably respond to them. I will probably, I don't think there's anything I'll change on the list, but if there's anything I put later on that I want to change, then I'll probably put it down in the comments or in the description of the video. Please like, subscribe, and like the video, and subscribe if you enjoyed and want to see more from me. Thank you very much. Goodbye.